Good afternoon, everyone. I know some of you may be here thinking it's time for Dig a Little Deeper, but as you may have just seen, our Jeremiah is off at Busch Gardens. So we thought that we'd try something a little different. I'm Rebekah, as you guys remember from other times when you visited for Dig a Little Deeper. I'm co-founder here at laughingplace.com, and with me today is the CEO now of Laughing Place, Benji, Breitbart, and we're going to be taking you in depth. This is what we're calling this program. It's called LP In Depth, and today's topic is an update on the Disney Parks projects. Hey, Ben, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited because you're going to help kind of catch me back up on all the various projects that are going on globally at Disney Parks.
Yeah, so we had a virtual education expo. Usually IAPA has a big convention in Orlando. Obviously, not great time for that. So they did a virtual thing, and two of the keynote presentations were from Disney folks. Josh D'Amaro, chairman of Disney Parks Experiences and Products. This is his first time as the chairman because Bob Chapek had the role before until March. And then they also had Talak Mandadi, the EVP of Digital and the Chief Technology Officer for Disney Parks Experiences and Products. So IAPA is usually a time when the Disney theme park community and Imagineering gives us a little update as to what's happening around the globe. And obviously with what's happened this year, I think it was a good time to kind of reset, see what Disney's working on, see what Disney's not working on, and just get a little bit of insight as to where things stand.
Well, I'm excited to kind of dive into what is going on with the Disney company. And I'm going to say hello to Amy and hello, Donna. Thanks for joining us as always. We're going to kick this off with a short video. It is. So
this is a new ad campaign from Walt Disney World, basically kind of saying, when you're ready, we're ready, and come visit when you feel comfortable.
Hey.
There's a great big beautiful tomorrow. At the end of every day. There's a great big beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow's just a dream away. Man has a dream, and that's the start. He follows his dream with mind and heart. When it becomes a reality, it's a dream come true for you and me.
Oh, that's awesome. Now I get to put you in a stroller, push you around.
Shining at the end of every day. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
What a lovely day for a tea party.
Just a dream away.
When you're ready for your tomorrow to begin, start planning at DisneyWorld.com.
That was adorable. So sweet.
So
I love that song.
Disney parks are at different phases of reopening. Hong Kong is kind of partially open a couple days a week, most days a week. Shanghai is open. Walt Disney World's running at 35% capacity. Disneyland's closed. DC Cruise Line's closed. Disneyland Paris is closed. But so everyone's a little bit in a different place, just like I think people are in different places for what they're comfortable with. So I think it was just a nice optimistic way, taking perhaps the most optimistic song ever written, at least in the Disney canon, if not humanity, and just kind of saying, doesn't need to be today,
Right.
but we're here.
We're here. Yep. I
So,
love it.
So as I said, there's a lot. They kind of announced earlier that a lot of park projects were being put on hold, some being redeveloped, some just being delayed. So this was really the first sort of time Imagineering, which we know has been affected by layoffs, gave us a little bit of an update on some of the projects they're working on. What I think is interesting is what they highlight here, as well as we get into a little bit later in this show, what they didn't highlight. So we'll check out this little update from Imagineering.
No, I have to agree. Between the ad you had and then this reel from Imagineering, makes me want to pack my bags. That's for sure. By the way, we're live, so as you're watching this footage and as we share these images, if you have questions, go ahead, pop them up. We'll do our best to answer them where we have the answer and pretend like we fake it till we make it when we don't. No, we'll let you know. We don't.
So I guess as you saw, the biggest news there is Epcot, which they talked about at the D23 Expo, kind of gave us the coming out party of the new Epcot, which is very much a nod to the old Epcot, at least in terms of graphic presentation. But the big change being Future World will be divided into 3 sections: World Celebration in the center, World Discovery, about technology and the human world, and World Nature, about the natural world. So we got some updates. World Celebration, we got news that the fountain that is going to be kind of given a retro, what we got, like a reboot, a recon, is going to be open by the end of the year. And will also feature a new lighting package for the fountain itself, but as well as Spaceship Earth, which is supposed to be give you a nice new welcome. I'm not sure if it will matter if you arrive to the park in the daytime, but I guess we'll find out. I don't know if the arrival lighting is perhaps more about the exit lighting, but what do I know?
It's for me, the image of Epcot Spaceship Earth with the purple and orange hue and the bit of pink, kind of almost like a sunset to twilight scenario. The idea of that transitioning is very hard for me to just even like wrap my head around the possibility, because it's like as long as I can remember, that was the colors I'm familiar with seeing there.
That Epcot, I associate that Epcot color palette, that like blue magenta, with John Hench. I felt like his tombstone should be like that sort of soft blue and purple,
right?
But totally. The color is a big deal to this project. They're bringing back color-based signage and stuff, a little bit less sterile than we saw with sort of the Epcot 94 95 transition. But what we didn't get on update from World Celebration is Spaceship Earth. There was the refurbishment that was supposed to start in March and is now kind of been publicly announced as being put on hold, as well as, which it just looks gorgeous. But then also the new event space, the new pavilion, which was yet to be named, was put on hold. Obviously, that seems to make a little bit of sense because I don't think the convention business is perhaps at the forefront these days. But we'll see. They didn't really say what's going to take its spot, if anything, or what's going to happen there. And probably if you're looking to trim money, I'd rather they trim it from these kinds of things than from like a big e-ticket attraction.
Right.
Those are, this can always happen later. Whereas if you cheap out when you build the attraction, it's always hard to kind of recover from it.
Well, I know a lot of the buzz that I saw that came out of the IAPA discussions was all the little images and data that we got on the Guardians of the Galaxy attraction that's coming to Epcot.
Yeah, so they've already started push-pull testing. It appears, obviously, when you build when you build a roller coaster, you build the roller coaster first, and then you build the show around it. Typically, and this is a huge show element. So it looks like the track is in, the ride vehicles are in. Now they're going to make it interesting to look at because this is the first Omni coaster. We actually have a brief clip of them testing it, and you can see it's a combination of a roller coaster, but like a dune buggy on a roller coaster, so it can rotate to show you what it wants to show you.
Now, okay, before you go on, what is push and pull testing?
So that's when like you're really checking to make sure that the track can withstand the stress of the vehicle on it.
Okay.
It's like cycling, I guess, is not exactly the same, but
I'm
close.
envisioning like that. I was
I also
envisioning
want to point out that video we got from Disney says
Yeah.
copyright 2019.
Yeah.
So.
And it previously recorded. That was the other highlight. Previously recorded.
That was. I think it might not be obvious from the picture, but I can tell just from having been there. That was actually filmed in the Netherlands.
Oh,
at the test site. So not even the United States. But so yeah, I think that's this at this point is probably the biggest thing happening at Epcot. This obviously photo a little bit more recent, but of the actual ride vehicle. And I think folks have in the past tried to combine storytelling of roller coasters to no success. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to crack the code with this Omni coaster in a way that Gringotts could not.
I would like to argue with you, but I having just ridden it recently, I can't too much. So.
Also in World Discovery was about to open but didn't get there. Space 220 being the number of miles you are away from Earth. The restaurant was announced at the expo.
That's what this image is from.
Third-party restaurant, at least at the time. I don't know if things have changed. With Patina Group running it, but imagining building it, and located near the Space Pavilion. So it seemed like it was about to open any day before the pandemic. Now it's probably not the right time to add food capacity, especially when you have to have an experience where you get in an enclosed space to go up to 220 miles above Earth. So, we'll see where it happens.
And these are all located within that area that's now going to be known as World Discovery. So the Cosmic Rewind.
Future World East.
Right. Now it will be World Discovery. And then the other
World Nature on the other side, where you have the land, the seas, imagination, the journey. They tore down the Communicore Interventions, whatever you want to call it. And the plan was to build this Journey of Water inspired by Moana attraction. Now, this one hasn't officially been put on hold, but they did not address it at either IAPA or at a subsequent D23 presentation. So we don't know where this one stands, what's going to open, but I will point out that it was clear that as opposed to Epcot's transformation being by the 50th anniversary project at one point, this is now going to be an ongoing transformation that will take several years. And they've been public about that, which probably is for the best because you don't have to have one package and then build it, kind of like they did at DCA. They're gonna open one thing, then they'll open another thing, and as we sort of ramp back up, it probably makes more sense in the changed environment.
And now we can move on to World Showcase and the beautiful Harmonious.
Yeah, and I think we heard about this show, which is basically a celebration of how Disney has impacted the world, through international performances of classic Disney songs. But I don't think we got the scale until we started seeing the barges being constructed. And you can see it fairly large. And unlike Illuminations, Reflections of Earth, they're not going to bring these in and out at least partly not bring them in and out each day. Presumably the pyrotechnics will be. But so in order to sort of mask the infrastructure, they're going to have a fountain sort of presentation during the day to kind of add some kinetic energy to World Showcase and mask the fact that there's big metal things behind them. So you're going to lose a little bit of that looking at America from across the sea. But, I think it's logistically makes sense because, quite frankly, they started bringing about those illumination barges before anyone had a chance to peacefully walk around World Showcase Lagoon. So you might as well just, keep it there and just mask it instead of just having it be there all day.
I was shocked by how large this device is because we were able to see it from the Skyliner traveling between Epcot and the hub there at the Caribbean Beach Resort. It is quite large. It is. How do you recall the dimensions on it? I know there were some numbers out there. Yeah, I was trying
to. It's either 147 square feet tall, 147 feet tall, 199 feet tall, something like that.
Right. It was very impressive and reminded me of Stargate, and so it's led to a lot of humor online regarding Disney building a Stargate.
Yeah, which makes sense at World Showcase, I guess.
Right. Oh, here we go. Tony Betty comes in with at least 60 feet tall for the centerpiece. So there you go. Thanks, Tony.
So obviously, what was supposed to be, I mean, they did some movies, but was obviously supposed to be the first big attraction to open as part of the Epcot transformation. It's not going to be ready by summer of 2020. Just got a hint, but it will be opening in 2021. Will be Remy's Ratatouille Adventure at the Epcot Pavilion. And there's a lot of talk about, at the Epcot Pavilion, obviously, the France Pavilion, there's a lot of talk about how the queue will transition you from the real world France to Remy's France. And they seem very focused on the queue, perhaps because that's new. The rest of the attraction will be inspired by the attraction that's currently at Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris, including the fact that it will be a bilingual attraction. If you go in Paris, Remy speaks French and English because of the European market there. But because it takes place in World Showcase, it makes sense for the attraction to also be bilingual. So even if you from the edutainment side, you're going to learn a little French. So you can add that to your little Spanish you know, such as por favor, manténgase a las puertas and permanece sentados, por favor.
That's an unexpected for me. That's an unexpected delight that the attraction will come over in a bilingual state. I didn't anticipate that I should have, considering it's going to be in the French, in the Pavilion of France, but it wasn't something that just, when I thought of this ride coming.
When they first said inspired by, which means not a direct lift, I always took it as, okay, so it's just going to be the same ride with English instead of a lot of French. And then it's kind of nice to know that you'll still have that French experience. There's been a lot of talk about how the World Showcase pavilions have sort of lost their cultural identity because they keep adding French. Arendelle is not in Norway, so
right.
But to have something that actually can bring a little character, which is going to happen at Epcot whether you like it or not, but then also still have a little bit of cultural overlay to it, I think worked out well.
Yeah, it'll be a nice introduction, I think, for some people to just experience French, in an environment that's a familiar environment. Now, you've ridden Ratatouille, correct? You've experienced it in France.
Yes.
Is there anything, like, as a fan, that you're excited, an element or something that now that people, more people that will be exposed to it, because not everybody's going to go to France like you?
Well, I mean, it's a good attraction, right? I mean, it's kind of funny how we went to, like, suddenly we have all these trackless attractions opening up in the United States after waiting since Honey Pot opened. We've been waiting for these attractions to come domestically, and we would have had 3 within a year, and now obviously Remy's is, Ratatouille's delayed, but no, I think what I like about it is it can be a large scale attraction that's not a thrill ride.
Okay.
And, I think a lot of our big attractions lately have been, roller coasters or, have some sort of thrill element. Whereas this is sort of bringing back a new ride system. It's kind of replacing the Omnimover as a way to have a family-based attraction that's still large in scope, high capacity, and, everyone can ride it. So I think that's really cool. I mean, that's what Disneyland is. It's not Six Flags.
Nice when it has different kind of pacing. That's one of the things I agree that I love about a Disney park is there are rides that you would feel comfortable going on right after lunch.
Especially, well, this one you don't want to go hungry.
Oh, okay.
Because the food is, you're in the kitchen, and unless you have a rat thing, the food looks really good.
So you don't want to go out hungry, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Well, bouncing back to the Disneyland Resort. We learned about a coming DVC tower. Yeah, so I found this was interesting. Was was approved by the Anaheim Planning Committee during the pandemic, and it's a priority for them. So you might have remembered that they announced a hotel going where the ESPN zone is, sort of in downtown Disney, that got pulled because of some disagreements with the city of Anaheim. This one seemed to kind of go right through. It's a vacation club unit, which is obviously a growth
business for Disney in California because they only had the Grand Californian villas, which have been sold out forever. So while Vacation Club building might not be as prevalent in Walt Disney World moving forward, they're still making an investment in expanding their portfolio in California.
The recent images that have been cropping up have helped me to better understand where the hotel is, because this area over here is the current pool, and then you have the wing that's being built, and then the secondary location. Correct? I am identifying those properly. So that was
so I mean, the street here well, I'm pointing, but that doesn't help. But the street towards the bottom of the screen, that's Walnut, right? I mean, on the left hand side, that's Walnut.
this one.
And then downtown Disney will be on the right hand side of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So that was helped me to better understand, because down here is Frontier Tower, and it actually, the construction of this unit will actually kind of poke just a little bit over the edging of the Frontier Tower, building, if you were looking at it from the lobby area, which, like I say, I'd kind of had a hard time figuring out where they were going to place it based on the initial images that I'd seen.
Yeah. So RIP Fantasy Waters again.
Right.
Probably not coming back.
Right. And we were debating what they were going to call this tower, because currently you have the Fantasy, the Adventure, and the Frontier. So you would feel it has to be the gut says it's going to be something about tomorrow, right?
That's what my gut would say. You never know, though, because it doesn't quite match the look of the other towers too. So I don't know if they'll want it. They previously had I forget what the original name was, but they renamed the new tower at the Swan to the Swan Reserve, and it had some other sort of
code.
Yeah,
it was called
I don't know what is vogue now in hotel naming, but yeah, I could see it be tomorrow. I don't, those towers have gone through so many names. Who cares? Reflections of Disneyland Hotel Tower. That's nice.
Very nice. Good call, Doobie.
So, also, I think it's cool that even though Disneyland's still closed, they have really started undertaking a major attraction expansion over in Toontown. With even in the heart of the pandemic, they have topped off Runaway Railway. This is Josh D'Amaro, when he was president of Disneyland, looking at the completely legitimate blueprints.
This was one of my I had to share this one because this was one of my favorite Instagram moments, because he's a great Instagram follower, first off, but this is how we kind of discovered that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was going to be appearing on the West Coast, was this image of Josh with Mickey and Minnie. But
although, to me, it was like, is that are they building a new attraction, or is that Judge Doom preparing to put a freeway right through Toontown?
but Benji was talking about the exciting vertical construction that Mr. Potrock, whose first name is escaping me, he shared Ken he shared on his Instagram that's been continuing at the Disney Resort.
This picture is a little old, so I mean, they've made a lot of progress since then, but this is from Team Disney, so you can see basically where it's going, kind of behind Fantasyland, but you'll enter through Toontown. And I mean, if you've already run Runaway Railway, I know a lot of people didn't get the chance to yet. It's a big attraction, big in scope, and will be a great addition to get people back in that part of the park. And it's really, now it's 2023, but that'll be the big new attraction coming to Disneyland after Galaxy's Edge opening. And
it'll be fun to add a new facade to the Toontown landscape, because they're going to add a theater facade that's how you'll access the attraction. So it'll be fun to see kind of how that changes the skyline, for lack of a better word, at Toontown.
the plywood. What's nice, there was conventional wisdom that Toontown wasn't long for this world. I mean, it's based off of Roger Rabbit. It was 1989, and not really a promoted brand just because of the legal complications and a bunch of sort of interactive experiences, which were that weren't even vogue before COVID, and bounce houses and ball pits
Right.
and so it's nice to see that they haven't given up on Toontown. I mean,
Mhm.
considering it's the first land built at Disneyland, even before Disney, it predates Disneyland.
Right. That's why it's
So
there. Yeah.
yeah. So
Oh, that's an
but if
interesting.
you
Donna talks about the fireworks and currently we know that fireworks will close Toontown, and so it will be interesting to see as technology is changing with fireworks in general, and with the popularity, I assume, of this attraction, it will be interesting to see how that will transition over the time.
Yeah, it will be because obviously closing Toontown while this is happening would be problematic. In terms of capacity of the brand new attraction. So it also kind of depends probably when they open it, right? If it opens in January, they could just not do fireworks for 5 months and no one would notice. If you get into summer, people will notice. So
there also may be more. It also I could see where it would create a bit more demand in the zone, and so while now they shut it down and then they don't reopen it. It used to be in days gone by that it would reopen for a period after fireworks. So perhaps we'll see a return to that as well. Who knows?
Well, and also the other thing is that if you're in queue, I mean, we don't know what the queue's going to look like. If you're in the building, you can be in the building. So
that's a good point as well.
You could cut it, reopen it, just sort of getting there. That's the hard part. But across the Esplanade, work on the Avengers recruitment initiative is ongoing. There's the hatch that is probably not relevant to the story that they actually went ahead and did. So Avengers Campus is being built currently at Disney California Adventure, probably basically built and ready to open any day. But also, I think it's important to notice that they're still working on a version at the Walt Disney Studios in Paris. However, we don't know if Hong Kong Disneyland's version is going to move forward. So what makes this is actually is going to be a little interesting. So the web attraction, the Spider-Man attraction, is supposed to be at both Disneyland or Disneyland Resort and in Paris. And that's what you're looking at right here. The Avengers attraction was supposed to be at both Hong Kong and California. Well, with the financial problems that Hong Kong is facing, it'll be interesting to see if California moves ahead with building that second attraction without the cost sharing of developing it also for Hong Kong.
Okay.
But the Spider-Man attraction will open. It's sort of an interactive thing. If you saw the video from Imagineering, you'll see that the vehicles kind of come in and you enter them. Even though it's a small show building, you still enter into a moving ride vehicle, and you will thwip, and you will catch a spider bot that has gone rogue with our friend Peter Parker here. Or I'm sorry, Spider-Man. Don't want to.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
And if you caught the finale of Spider-Man Maximum Venom on Disney XD, it basically leads into this attraction. So you can check that out.
Well,
but
for me, I'm just eager for the Pim Kitchen to finally open so we can try the unusual treats that they were tempting us with. What I want to say it was like March when they were like, and coming in July, this peanut butter banana bacon sandwich, or this cream puff. And in this case, it was a raspberry mousse of some sort inside that they said this one was purple, but it wouldn't always. You might be surprised, like it could be a different color when you get yours, kind of thing. And I don't know. I was excited by the food that I saw, and so I'm eager for that finally to be opening at California Adventure.
Nothing like food pictures at a pre-dinner webcast.
Yay, food pictures.
So go jetting over to Paris, which is currently closed, unfortunately, but they're still undertaking work, including the Cars road trip attraction. They shared this picture, which I think seemingly leaves out the big, truck, but it shows you that they did work on the water tower or the gas tower, accurately. So
it is fun that it's a still of the actual construction coupled with the concept art and part of it. Yeah. Nope. Sorry, we don't have the truck to show you yet.
Yeah, so it was obvious. This comes across as quick. IAPA's happening. Send us a picture. But for Marvel fans, we were just talking about the big excitement is Disney's Hotel New York becoming Disney's Hotel New York, the Art of Marvel, with beautiful artwork and throughout, and including we got a sneak peek inside work actually happening in the lobby, which is just gorgeous. I think sometimes we forget that comics are works of art in and of themselves. We see so much of our comics are consumed through movies and television. We forget to actually take a look at the gorgeous art in the panels themselves. So you got Captain Marvel there, Thor, the Hulk, and it's not like they just contracted one Marvel artist to do the art for this. They've contracted tons of artists, so you're going to get a very, it's all Marvel, but you're going to get a great diversity of style from within the Marvel 616 universe. So
the Marvel 616 universe. Can you explain that just a little bit? Because some of us are Disney fans who are just now venturing into Marvel. So just a brief, what's Marvel 616?
So there was a time when they decided they were going to number all the Marvel universes. So you will have there's the main Marvel universe that takes place in the comic books predominantly. So that's the 616. But occasionally the storytelling will go into, an alternate dimension, an alternate universe where there's a different Thor, just for storytelling purposes, right? Alternate worlds. I mean, Star Trek did it, the mirror universe. Every sci-fi thing does that at some point. But then also you have the X-Men animated series universe. You have the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You have different universes. So the main Marvel universe was designated 616. And they each have a number. You can go get a handbook that just lists. Now, there's plenty of numbers that don't have universes yet for future storytelling purposes, but every universe has a number in the handbook.
Okay.
And this is where if you saw Disney Plus's Marvel 616 series, it's because it spans the entire Marvel universe, which is what they call it 616. I mean, so they even have a universe designation for the universe that we all live in, where Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created comic book characters based on what are real people in the Marvel 616 universe.
Okay.
So it gets really meta, it gets really complicated, but in the end, you just have to enjoy the storytelling and know that sometimes they go to alternate universes. And I would like to point out that if you're just starting to understand what the multiverse is, where there's different universes and things, you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself too, because you're going to be ahead of the game, all your friends, because Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is an upcoming Marvel Cinematic Universe film, which will presumably address the fact that there are multiple Marvel universes. So, if you get a chance, watch Marvel 616. It's a great series on Disney Plus. There's nothing to do with Disney parks, but there are 6 distinct stories of documentaries that have nothing to do with each other. You don't have to watch it. There's no order. You pick one you want. We saw the one about the history of women in Marvel Comics, which goes back a lot farther than I think most people realize. And, you kind of think like, oh, this is going to be a story about how hard it is to be a woman in comics. And while there were times when they were challenged, in the end, you find out it wasn't really as hard as you might think it was. And the Japanese Spider-Man show, which was not allowed to leave Japan because it had virtually nothing to do with Spider-Man. So they're great. Those are the 2 great documentaries I've seen. It really inspires you about some of the great characters they've made, like Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel lately, to really showcase that women can love comics too. I think they forgot about that market. And despite women creating comics, they weren't making comics for women. And so now you have comics that are accessible to everybody. But I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, and I think what's interesting from the park side is they want this to be an interconnected universe where, what's happening at Hong Kong Disneyland will affect what's happening at Disney's California Adventure. but this does not take place within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This does not take place within, the comic books. This takes place in its own place in its own time. And so, unlike Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which takes place in canon, this is just another multiverse of Marvel. I don't know what the number is for Avengers Campus, but it's going to be a Marvel universe that is unrelated to, or, just tangentially connected to various Marvel storytelling.
Well, Doobie's decided that my husband and co-founder of LifePlace decided that 617 will be Marvel Universe of Energy. So there you have it. But no, it's exciting because as a Disney park goer, all these decades, I grew up on the Disney films, and so everything that I encountered at the parks was quite familiar to me story-wise, and even like Star Wars and Indiana Jones. These were movies that I had gone to enough, or I had a passion about. With the Marvel projects coming to Disney parks, this is really a new area for me. I'm not well versed or a frequent Marvel person, so I'm having to learn a bit more. I'm interested to see how they will connect with people like me.
Yeah, and for those of you that want to, maybe have watched the movies but haven't gotten to comics, or Marvel as a whole, I'd recommend a couple things. One is D23's presentation they did on 80 years of Captain America. Just a great way to get to know what that character's been through in a very, fun way, but also, without making your head explode for 80 years of storytelling. And once again, Marvel 616. I think it gives you a great kind of just spot. It's not Marvel 101. It's not that, but it gives you a little bit of familiarity. And you can also pick up the Marvel Unlimited app. So if you want to find if you want to read comics on a subscription basis instead of having to pick them up, you can pick storylines, just kind of read them through without having to worry about going to your comic shop every Wednesday.
Oh, there you go. A little bit of catch up for those of us who have not been studying the Marvel for 80 years, right? It's got there's quite a bit of content to catch up on. but now we're gonna branch it back into a world that I'm far more familiar with, and that is the Lucasfilm beauty and majesty of the Halcyon.
Yeah, so this is a 2-day, 2-night experience, which includes a shore excursion to Batuu, and is really going an experience in and of itself. And there was we talked a little bit about what Tilak from Disney talked about how they want to expand outside the berm when it comes to experiential storytelling. And for example, this project doesn't need to be at Walt Disney World, right? I mean, besides the shore excursion to Batuu, being on the Galactic Starcruiser could be anywhere, because you literally, you could build in the middle of the desert, right? There's no real windows, spoiler alert, right? So, thinking outside the box really about what they can build. And, I think it's impressive to me that they've decided to continue. This is one of the projects that they've continued their investment in, even during these challenging times. But it's nice to see them still thinking big. And I do want to talk a little bit about that concept, because Josh really did want to bring home that, now it's challenging, but we're not trying to shrink away. We're going to bring everybody back. We're going to bring back the entertainment, and we want to think big. SpaceX just went to the moon. Well, why don't we build something? Why don't we make that? Why are we not in that space? Why are we not doing an experience to get to the moon? And not saying that that's what they're going to do, but he definitely, I think, is chomping at the bit to get through this, so that they can. I mean, this poor guy was named chairman like 10 minutes into COVID, and he hasn't really had a chance to do his investment vision like other chairmen have. So I think he's ready to hopefully experience a guest rebound, and then really get to show you where the parks experiences and product business can go from here.
Now, I've been covering the Disney company for years now, and you and I have watched several attempts at regional Disney locations, whether it be it was Disney Quest, Club Disney. There are many different types of opportunities that we've seen them try. Do you think that this Starcruiser idea is in essence kind of putting the toe in the water of this as a model that they could then replicate elsewhere?
I think they're testing it out, and I think it might there's certain things about why, for example, why does Turtle Talk have to be at Epcot? Why can't Turtle Talk be on your computer?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're going to see them trying that. I don't want to say regional entertainment because that kind of has a connotation of the sort of building something here, but I don't think it's so much that as much as bringing it closer to you. It's not going to be like, it has to be something that is able to sustain itself 365, which is the challenge that the regional entertainment business of the 90s had. And, but I would also say in many ways, Disney Cruise Line was regional entertainment. And, there's nothing, sure, Port Canaveral is close-ish to Disney World, but there's nothing about Galveston or Vancouver or Barcelona. So, they have been able to be patient with that business. It wasn't successful right out of the gate. And I think you might see them try, they did Olani, but I think what they're trying to show is that maybe if they make it a branded experience, not so much just Disney Hotel here, but a Star Wars experience, a Marvel experience. I mean, how cool would it be to have a Marvel experience in New York City itself? So
for me, this project in some ways feels like that next step out of the pop-up experiences that we keep seeing places where, like companies come in and they build the diner from Saved by the Bell, for a short period of time, and people go there and eat and take pictures and have that kind of experience. And so I'll be curious, because that's kind of what I've been waiting for Disney to do more of, is to kind of take over a location for a period of time and offer an immersive experience like this. This is a 2-night stay in its packaging.
And I think it's important, names, as Marty Sklar would tell you, names matter. And when Disney changed its names from Disney's Parks and Resorts to Disney Parks Experiences and Products, they put that experience name in there for a reason. And it wasn't just, because they have cruise lines. They wanted to show that they're going to do experiences beyond the berm and using technology to do that. Whether it's successful or not, who knows? But, the parks are only going to be so, there's only so much attendance you're going to get. And I think now you're seeing, the diversity of experiences can help moving forward. So I'm curious to see.
The nice thing with a project like this is, in building it there with Walt Disney World in your backyard, you have that as a bit of a fallback as you test and adjust to consumer interest and consumer needs within, to have a bubble experience. You can learn a bit without having to be, if you take them to the middle of nowhere, if you take them to a place where there is nothing else and then you disappoint them, that's a more challenging disappointment to overcome than if you're trying something in a place like Walt Disney World. Is how my mind.
I think they view their experiences as a journey. Where they went from linear experiences to something like this, which is an immersive experience, and then I think they're going to see after this, and they're going to take the feedback of what this is. Then you're really going to see how do they make it a personal experience across the globe and bring it to you.
Because this idea to me is just so amazing. The notion that you're going to set foot inside this building and in essence disappear from planet Earth for, the package initially, it's a 2-night, you cannot, obviously it books out from that, but no,
it doesn't. No,
it doesn't. No. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
This is like a cruise ship. Everyone's going to board basically at the same time, and everyone's going to leave at the same time. There's not going to be overlapping.
So it's a 48-hour experience in essence.
Right.
Okay. And if you were to stay, then you're in essence doing a double dip for, like you would on a cruise ship where you're.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know that you would. I mean, it kind of depends on how the storytelling goes. I don't know that it's not a cruise ship, right? There's a story here.
Yeah.
So if you want to see the movie again, sure. I think it's more likely you would go transfer to another Disney resort and do a typical Disney vacation.
And then okay, and maybe bookend it would be more could be the anticipated participation. Very,
Yeah.
very interesting. I'm skeptical. I'll be honest. I'm skeptical on this project. I'm thrilled and excited that it's coming, and I know people who would be excited to participate in it on the performer side of it. The idea of living in this role day in and day out for guests is very appealing to them. And then I also have friends who the idea of taking cosplay to the next level is also very interesting. I'm just not. I'm challenged.
Well, and I don't know.
I'm challenged to see a middle ground with it and how that plays out.
Right, and I think they want to see that too. I think this is the sort of dipping their toe in the water. Like, I mean, you're not going to want to go there and be like, oh no, in space there's no shampoo, right? Like, when you have just like in the parks, like real world stuff happens, and you got to deal with it. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. But I'm just happy they're dreaming big. Whether this is good in the end or not, I'm just happy they're trying.
And the price point I've seen has been a challenge for many people I know who are excited about it. So I'm interested.
Have they announced a price point?
There was a rumor. I thought there was a rumored price point out there for a bit. I can't remember where it originated, but I do remember a money figure being out there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's probably not going to be on it's not going to be $60 a night, but I think we should see what it is. I mean, yeah, obviously, even if it's amazing, there's some people, there's a price where it's not affordable to people. But before we figure out exactly where the price point is, if you consider this is your 2-day theme park experience in a hotel with food, if you compare it to a cruise line, not a hotel, right?
Oh, well, I mean, I've also visited we've been able to tour some of the grand villas and those types of things. And I also, for me, I just find the price point on those, more challenging. But I know that, for others, that's quite appealing, and it fits in with their family needs.
Yeah. And I mean, by no means would I tell anyone where to spend their hard-earned cash.
Yeah, exactly. But it's an exciting prospect, and it'll be very interesting to see how the reality of it versus the planning, because I like Pandora, where initially we had certain expectations of how in depth the experience would be, cast speaking foreign language and this type of thing that didn't come to fruition. But that's in a theme park environment, whereas this is in a very specialized environment. So I'm very interested to see.
And when it comes down to that kind of performance theming stuff, you can always, if you say, okay, we're not going to do any of that, then that's where you go. You never accelerate it. But if you say, okay, we're going to think big here, we're going to try bold steps, and then it just becomes it doesn't work in a real world environment, you can always take a step back.
Right.
So I mean, with like Galaxy's Edge, we've seen it, and Pandora, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just, the real world happens, and I realize, okay, it's fun to play for a little bit, but in the end, I got to know what I'm putting in my mouth,
Right.
And so, but not thinking of the segue there. Shanghai Disney Resort is building their Zootopia land. Zootopia, if you're not sort of culturally aware, was huge in China, the biggest Disney movie by far of all time. So they're getting a big Zootopia attraction. We don't know much about it, but we do know it's a big show building because they shared a picture of that with us. So if you see, you can see, this is obviously the construction. You can see the castle there, and then the Tron coaster in the distance to get a scale that this is just a big building. I mean, if you want some more reference, there's a bus in the foreground.
Right.
And so it's a lot of buses high, it's a lot of buses long, it's a lot of buses wide, it's a lot of buses.
And this is a recent picture that was shared at IAPA, and I was telling Ben that what amazed me is that we saw just at the beginning of June that they shared this post, vertical construction begins on Zootopia themed land. And so, it's like, okay, there we go. And then now we have this enormous show building available.
So yeah, fun fact: Shanghai construction's different in China than it is in the United States.
just a wee bit, right?
Just leave it at that. While in Asia, though, Tokyo Disney Sea is continuing work on the Fantasy Springs new island or land or whatever you call them at Tokyo Disney Sea.
Protocol.
That's great. Yes. Now, I think it's important to note that the budgets for Tokyo Disney construction come from Oriental Land Company and not Disney. So they don't. Disney has no real control over if it gets built or not built. But there's a new hotel. It's inspired by the Disney classic fairy tales, particularly Peter Pan, Tangled, and Frozen, with things like Frozen Ever After. Here's a picture of
some of the gardens,
area development. Yeah. And so it's supposed to open in the 2023 fiscal year. Now, the fiscal year at Tokyo Disney goes from April to March, so a little off the calendar year. But construction seems to be on its way.
It looks really beautiful and focusing on some stories that I very much enjoy. So I am quite eager to finally. I haven't been to Tokyo Disney Sea, so I can see kind of putting that on my wish list and wait until I can go and experience that protocol because it just looks really stunning.
Speaking of protocols, hey, look at that. The Disney Wish, I think there was a lot of questions about what was going to happen with the 3 new cruise ships with COVID. So as of now, as of the last we heard from Bob Chapek, it's just been delayed a couple months, about 6 months. So the Disney Wish will debut in summer of 2021 with the other 2 ships to follow. The construction seems to still be ongoing. And I think if I was a broker, like a stockbroker, I would look at this and say, okay, Disney thinks there's going to be strong cruise demand. And Bob Chapek said, if you look at later 2021, bookings are way up. And so they've seen strong demand for bookings. So I think they feel there's going to be pent-up demand, and having those 3 new ships will be advantageous to them. Also, I think it's important to note that they are also, during these times, doing dry dock work on the existing ships so that they will not have to take them out of service again, once they come back online. So they're still putting the capital into them to kind of, I don't know if there's any major guest enhancements, but, make sure that there's, see where they fix the carpet, that kind of thing, while they're kind of sitting there waiting for the cruise industry to get back on track.
The Wish, I'm excited for it to. Now they said initially that the delay. I just want to make sure I understand it right. Was production, right?
Right. So it didn't seem to be a delay in construction. I mean, in terms of Disney's money. However, I would say they probably aren't too disappointed with the delay, just because this has lasted a lot longer than I think people thought originally. But they just had delays because of lockdowns and where the ships are being built that made the ship's delayed. And obviously things could change again with COVID cases rising. I don't know if the ship will be delayed any further, but in the end, Disney still wants them. So it might not be May 2021, but at some point those 3 ships will be coming online.
Do you recall the current status of the cruise line? In that, is it currently they're not doing any bookings, or is it that they? So they're currently doing bookings. The earliest cruises that are available are in January. Those early January cruises are not going to happen. There's just no way. But so they seem to be sort of canceling them as time goes on. I wouldn't expect anything in January or February, but who knows? What in the reckless speculation category or madcap guessing, do you have a thought as to when you think things might, or is it everything too
well
much?
I mean, I'd hate to hazard a guess because
Okay.
I have my own guesses, sure, but this virus has shown that guesses are irrelevant,
right?
And so I think unlike other cruise lines where cruising is their business, it's important that they get back up as soon as possible. Disney, cruise lines, that much of a business for Disney, and I think they want to make sure that they're safe. More importantly, because you don't want to have, them on the news and Disney causing people to get sick or whatever. So I think you want to be careful. And I think they feel they can be. I don't think you're going to wait, forever. But I also don't see them chomping at the bit to be the first cruise to get back up and running. Especially with the market with families, they might be a little bit more hesitant than the Carnival Cruise Line crowd that is looking for a fun ship.
Okay, and in the topic of cruising, pretty soon you'll be cruising the bayou.
Yeah, so this attraction, which they keep stressing was under development before this year, but was fast tracked after this year began, is the refurbishment of Splash Mountain at Disneyland, Disney World. No word on if Tokyo will follow suit, but and kind of falls into Disney's inclusion initiative, which includes, and this probably means not a lot to most people, but if you've ever worked for Disney, is a huge deal. Disney since 1955 has had the 4 keys: safety, courtesy, show. It used to be capacity, now it's efficiency, but they're adding in a 5th key, which is going to be inclusion. And that might sound hokey, but I got to tell you, if you work for Disney, the 4 keys are ingrained in every soul of your being. In fact, it's hard for me to say 5 keys. I've been saying 4 keys since I was 18 years old. And I think this was an idea that came from the cast. And I think it actually kind of predates the recent events as well. You might have thought it was sort of a reaction to what happened this year. This has been in the works for some time, but because especially if you think of inclusion, not in necessarily the most political sense, but Disney has always been a very diverse place with cast members from around the world. I think sometimes what many companies consider diversity pales in comparison to when you're working with people from, in the World Showcase where everyone's from a different country, or, international college program, or, being one of the best parts about being a cast member is meeting people from not only around the country, but around the world that have different experiences, different cultures. And so, it's not just going to be on the cast side, but they're going to want to make sure that those, that they tap into various cultures and identities to bring experiences into the parks. So such as the Tiana experience over at Splash Mountain. And there's more to come, as Josh Tomorrow said. And I think you've seen Disney see this be successful for them with things like the Black Panther and Coco, where it's not that those are, they took elements of those cultures and histories and made found something new in them and made them, exciting for audiences of all sorts. And I think you're going to see them try and do that with attractions too, to find ways of embracing new cultures to tell new stories. Whether it's, we've seen it work well in the movies of things like Moana and, obviously Black Panther, as I mentioned, Coco, and you see them coming down the line as well with Encanto and Raya and the Lost Dragon. They're really trying to, in order to find something new, they're looking beyond the sort of grim fairy tale world that they sort of tapped already.
And the recent Disney Store international commercial that's celebrates the Filipino culture and celebrations surrounding the holidays. Those kinds of things are very special because not only does it connect within that community and kind of lift them up in seeing the things that matter to them celebrated in a very public way, but for me, it introduced me to certain cultural practices that I hadn't been to a Filipino friend's house around the holidays, so these weren't things that I was aware of, and it led me down that internet rabbit hole of learning different traditions and celebrations, and it's something that, as you point out, the Disney company has always done. I can remember going to the Viva Mexico celebrations at Disneyland in the summertime, in the fall, back in the 80s. They used to use the local cultures as to kind of, I don't want to say fill the gap, but in some ways, that's exactly what it was. It was summertime, and then there'd be this lull before Christmas, and they would fill it with the pageantry and culture of the surrounding areas that were available there in Southern California.
And while the stories, that resulted, might not be the way we would present them today, I think this goes back a long time. Walt had a great passion his whole life around South America after his trip down there, part of the Goodwill tour, which resulted in Caballeros and Saludos Amigos, Small World, obviously a gift to the children of the world. And while Walt was a proud American, he was proud of the way America was able to, benefit people of all types. And you hear people there as while he might not be the most sensitive guy in the world, he did value what everyone could bring in terms of storytelling.
Yes, very, very much so. So it's nice to see that become, for me, I think of those 5 keys as being kind of the filter for anything before Disney steps forward doing anything. They kind of check. Oh, okay, it's hit these markers. Now we can move with
and
it.
It's how we make decisions. You think about, okay, obviously safety is number one. I mean, forget anything, right? Safety. Is this decision safe? Is it good show? Is it courtesy? Not saying that it's okay, I passed check one, but you balance these things out. But you look through those. That's how you look through the lenses you look through. And I mean, Disney's always done too. I mean, even just in terms of accessibility, making sure that their attractions are, not just meeting code for accessibility, but we're trying to be as inclusive as that experience could inherently be. But I also want to mention, we talk a lot about what they talked about today, but it's also, I think, important to talk about what they didn't talk about. So at Hong Kong Disneyland, they had these expansion plans for Arendelle and Stark Expo, sort of their version of Adventures Campus. Didn't mention those. There's the Oaken ride, which is basically Summerdorf's Mine Train, but with a Frozen vein to it. And then, they were going to have a Frozen Ever After experience as well. Stark Expo, where we talked briefly about how they're not getting the Avengers ride and what that could possibly mean for California. Disneyland Paris, they didn't mention Arendelle and the Star Wars Land, but I did reach out, and those are still on track. They just were sort of announced early on as sort of a bigger vision, and were always sort of intended to be later on phases of experiences. So those still seem to be happening, even though they didn't mention it. Meanwhile, at Walt Disney World, the DuckTales sort of interactive experience, the World Showcase Adventure wasn't mentioned. As we talked, Journey of Water, Play Pavilion, Wondrous China, over at Epcot, not mentioned. I'm giving you the pavilion. But to me, what's most interesting that they didn't mention in terms of Walt Disney World was the Tron Light Cycle run. Looks like what they're going to try and do is just sort of finish the building and kind of lock it up, and then come back to it once things get a little bit better and can install the show elements and things. So, they're going full steam ahead with Cosmic Rewind. Light Cycle Run may be taking a back seat. But also, we didn't get word of Reflections, and the DVC seems to be on hold where River Country used to be. And then Drawn to Life, the partnership with Cirque du Soleil is probably waiting for theater experiences to be a little bit more palatable, as well as Cirque du Soleil to kind of work through their financial situation due to the pandemic. But one thing they did opened this week, was the Castle of Magical Dreams at Hong Kong Disneyland. And it is nice to have something actually open as part of Hong Kong Disneyland's 15th anniversary. Yeah, you're right. Tron / Run. Thank you. But the Castle of Magical Dreams, the sort of giving Sleeping Beauty Castle thyroid supplements or whatever, did open. So we got a video of that. It's a little long, but it gives us a little more detail since we can't get to Hong Kong Disneyland right now.
Over the past years, Hong Kong Disneyland and its castle have served as a backdrop for making millions of guests' dreams come true. Hong Kong Disneyland is entering a magical milestone, 15th anniversary, with the opening of the Castle of Magical Dreams, which acts as a shining beacon of courage, hope, and possibility to all guests.
This is a historic moment at Hong Kong Disneyland. It is the very first time an existing castle in a Disney park has undergone a transformation as grand as this one. So let's join the team as we take you on a journey behind the magic of this reimagined castle. Taking inspiration from 13 stories of Disney princesses and queens, the Castle of Magical Dreams signifies a celebration of diversity, inclusion, and dreams. The architectural design of the castle embraces their unique characteristics through interpretation of color, icons, symbols, and patterns in uniquely designed towers, turrets, and spires dedicated to their respective stories.
4D castle model was created by using building information modeling technology to virtual design and collaborate in real time. To make complex construction like castle possible, we perform model clash detection before fabrication and assembly on site.
The castle is designed with gradations of color and shimmering materials that create an uplifting and aspirational feel. And it really connects to the emotional warmth of the park, as well as with the vibrant tropical environment of Hong Kong. The individual color and iconic symbology of the heroines is harmoniously highlighted and blended into the architecture, into the domes, into our towers, into our facades, both to strengthen as well as to enhance this magical castle.
So now let's see how we turn imagination into a reality. And this is where it all happens. After years of concept and design, it's finally beginning to take shape.
This is a 4-year project. It's really exciting to the team because it's the first time ever that we are expanding a castle in an operating park in Disney history.
Since we're expanding upon an existing castle, the prefabricated models of the new castle need to integrate into the existing castle seamlessly and tie into the overall environment.
The role of the facade production designer is to deliver the facade. That's the skin of the building. We work from the drawing phase all the way through every aspect of production until we have the finished building. The benefit of modular construction is that we can do 2 work sites at once. We can work here in the factory and we can also work at site. Simultaneous parallel paths. We can work twice as fast.
The modular units and towers were all prefabricated and fully painted off-site before being shipped to Hong Kong Disneyland. Once they arrived at the resort pier, all the modules were transported to the construction site where all these modules were assembled, lifted up onto the castle one by one, and installed overnight. So you can actually see the castle growing day by day as you walk into the park.
Guests will be able to admire its unique features from up close and afar. With Hong Kong Disneyland's idyllic backdrop of hilly landscapes and blue skies. It will not only be a symbol for how far the resort has come in its 15th anniversary, but also how there's a dream out there for every single one of us. For this castle signifies courage, hope, and possibility, inspiring all who dare to dream big.
Okay, so the Disney team and me thought, oh, finally modular construction. Like, oh, the contemporary.
Time to bring that back from the contemporary, right?
As Jimmy says, thank you, US Steel.
Remember when they finally tore all that out because it didn't line up right?
That's so beautiful, and the way that you'll be able to examine the castle and kind of see each of the princesses showcased. Like here you have, elements of Mulan's story. It's gonna be it's like the ultimate hidden Mickey, kind of in a way to be able to find all that out.
Yeah, now when you look at the castle, the only ones you get confused with is Disney World and Tokyo Disney because the Hong Kong one doesn't look like Disneyland anymore.
And they have an homage to the fairies of Sleeping Beauty Castle. One of my favorite anecdotes about this castle is that they've collected hopes and little note cards and of hopes and wishes, and they've put it in the top turret, right? That I am getting that story right, so that it would always have it. It's like that kind of lore of the unpainted spire.
30 years from now, someone's going to do construction work and be like, "What the heck is going on?"
So yeah, and the beautiful stained window with the princesses represented. So lovely.
So that's our first in-depth show. I do want to share, we got some upcoming content coming to Laughing Place in the coming days, including on the 24th is the 10th anniversary of Tangled. So Tony will be sharing his thoughts. I don't know if you saw his exhaustive look at Toy Story today, but if you haven't, check that out. And on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day at noon, join us live as we announce our Turkey of the Year.
Yay! I'm excited. I can't wait for that debate. That debate's going to happen over the next few hours. The next day or so? The team will get together and debate that and figure out what we're gonna.
Yeah, I think we got a clear winner this year, though.
We'll see. I don't know. I'll fight hard. No, I'm just kidding.
And Friday on you will be back with Becca.
I will with Barely Necessities. We're gonna do our best to showcase some of the fun of Black Friday. What's going on? So, yep.
So I'd like to end this show with you and I both sharing what we enjoyed this week the most and what we're looking forward to the most next week. So what was your highlight from last week, Rebekah?
Oh, okay. Well, for me, without a doubt, hey, let me share all the pictures all at once. It was when our own Mike C. and many, many others were wandering the Buena Vista Street at Disney's California Adventure. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed hearing the joy in his voice, because our Mike Celestino, he can be hard to kind of get that woohoo out of, but it was there, and I was so happy to see the people along the streets and enjoying the Disney theme park again in shopping and dining enjoyment.
So mine was Animaniacs, and it's like about as far away from Disney as you can be if it's still being Disney because it's on Hulu. But it's fair to criticize the revival, but in the end, it's just funny, and it's nice to have funny and crazy and zany, and it's dense. Like you have to watch the episode twice just to get every gag because you're laughing, and it's just sort of the balm we need, I think, as we head into this winter.
Oh, agreed. I had a hard time picking my favorite because I very much enjoyed the Wrangler's Code too.
Code.
Yeah, from
Wrangler's Code.
The fun that Disney Plus brought us. So.
What about next week? What are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to The Mandalorian. I'm not going to be spoilery at all, but except to say that I have the impression that this one's going to be directed by Dave Filoni, is what I've heard. And so I'm excited by that prospect. I'm eager to see what of the many, because they dump all these different strings on you and then they leave them out there, and I'm interested to see which one they're going to pull a little harder on this week. Which one are we going to find out more about?
What's interesting is we're going through the document about the show, and you typed in staying away from spoilery rumors, which I have not heard any of them, and so I was constantly worried you're going to type in, for example, and I would be like, no.
I know my team. I'm very careful, but I've heard some spoilery rumors, and I'm annoyed by them, and so I'm protective of you guys.
So what I'm most looking forward to is The Wonderful World of Disney Magical Holiday Celebration, because there's nothing I enjoy more than incredibly campy, tacky Disney variety special. So this year, it's basically a clip show of past performances from the last 5 years. But there'll be a new opening number, and there'll be a new look at some new attractions coming, like Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. So to me, while these shows can be incredibly bad, not like Star Wars Holiday Special bad from '78, but they can be pretty bad. but to me, it's not the holidays without them. So that's what I'm looking forward to this week.
Are these Disney Plus, ABC, Disney Channel?
That's going to be on ABC.
ABC. Okay.
There are some holiday specials coming to Disney Channel specifically, but this one will be Thanksgiving night on the American Broadcasting Company.
Oh, very cool. Oh, that'll be fun. Are we
also November 30th, just so you don't get confused, they will be doing the Disney Holiday Sing-Along, but that's November 30th, the one for Ride and Seacrest. That's a different special. There's a lot of Disney specials because, they're easy to produce and they can't make anything else.
I'm eager for the day when streaming can more accurately sync with everybody so you can watch stuff together, because right now it's still a bit hard to really watch things together, because I know there's some of these watch along apps, but they're it's still
I haven't tried Disney Plus's group watch yet, when it's sort of embedded inside the app, but yeah, you do miss sort of the viral sort of, it's not even just with friends, it's just sort of the moment when everyone in the world is watching at the same time. It would be neat to see the world react to Mando all together. Instead of sort of having to wait until everyone in your Slack channel has seen it, and you can start talking.
Yeah, it's like, is it time yet? Has everybody in this group now talked?
That's why Tony needs to watch the 5th episode of Animaniacs, because I really want to talk about it, but nobody has watched it.
Oh, hey, by the way, since we're talking about Disney Plus, did you see this from their Twitter last? I think it was their Twitter, maybe their Instagram. They did this birthday cake in celebration of Disney Plus-iversary, and it had different layers for all the different fun you can find there. National Geographic.
I understand Disney being the base level, but we really think National Geographic should be the top. Like, I feel like National Geographic's been doing a lot of heavy lifting for Disney Plus lately. I don't know. I might have put Pixar at the top, and then until Soul comes out, and obviously Star Wars should be important.
Yeah,
I'm going to get my Mandalorian, my child key tomorrow from Disney.
Oh, I got my Disney Plus key in the mail just the other day. I couldn't believe how quickly it came. I'm excited. So now I can put it in a shadow box with my ears and my pin.
A salute to all streaming services, but mostly Disney Plus.
You got that right. Well, I guess that wraps it up for us here. I'll be back tomorrow with Mando Mondays at 1:30 p.m. Jeremiah will be live from Universal at 11 a.m. These times are all Pacific. But in the meantime, Ben, you got anything before we sign off?
Yeah, so thanks for joining our first LP In Depth. We won't be here next week, but the following week at some to be determined time, we'll be taking a look at how the Walt Disney Company is celebrating the holidays in 2020. It's a new year. It's a different year. So we'll take a deep dive as to how you can spend your December with the magic of Disney and the holidays across all of its various tentacles.
So thanks everybody for joining us. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next time. Bye.